Did you know? This microscopic organisms can survive for decades completely frozen with no moisture, and can survive high heat and pressure that would basically make any other living thing explode. Before we start, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe after watching. Thank you. The story of the tiny lunar bears began last April, when Israel Aerospace Industries Beresheet probe and lunar lander, the first object sent to Moon by a private company, crashed into the Moon's Sea of Serenity, a lunar plain created by an ancient volcanic eruption. Aboard the lander was a DVD-sized package, called a lunar library, that belonged to the Arch Mission Foundation, a non-profit focused on creating a backup of planet Earth. While the lander was destroyed, a package aboard the craft is believed to have survived. Within it were thousands of little tardigrades, stuck to the payload via special tape. After consulting with technical advisors and viewing imagery of the crash site taken by NASA's Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, it appears the object was probably ejected from Beresheet and is sitting on its own, away from the crash site. American entrepreneur Nova Spivak, founder of Arch Mission, says the heat of the crash was not enough to melt the nickel disks of the library, which are encased in several layers to block cosmic radiation. Ironically, our payload may be the only surviving thing from that mission, he said. That payload contains much more than water bears. The purpose of the Arch Mission Foundation is to send repositories of human knowledge into strategic locations in space. If humans survive into the future, the libraries can serve as time capsules of days gone by. If humans don't survive, they will stand as monuments to our species and will give any intelligent life that finds them access to our history, science and literature. Surprisingly, a large amount of the human experience is crammed into the little library. The gadget is made up of 25 nickel discs. The first 4 include analog, nanoscale etchings of 60,000 pages worth of information readable using various microscopes. Those documents reveal how to access the digital information on the other 21 discs. Digitally embedded on those discs is all of the English Wikipedia, thousands of classic books, a linguistic key to 5,000 languages, and an Israeli time capsule that includes descriptions of its culture and history, among other things. Human DNA samples are also included in the library, sandwiched in layers of epoxy resin between the 40-micron nickel discs, with hair and blood from 24 humans embedded as well. There's also bits of holy sites, including a sample from the Bodhi tree in India, in those layers. For good measure, extra tardigrades were stuck to tape that was attached to the library. The question now is, are those tardigrades able to survive on the lunar surface? It's definitely possible. Tardigrades are able to enter a special state called cryptobiosis, which makes them almost indestructible. In this state they pull in their legs and expel almost all the moisture from their bodies. When they enter this type of hibernation they're called tons, and they were in that state when sent to the Moon. But there's more going on than just pulling in their legs. For starters, their metabolism decreases by 99.9%. Then they produce glycerol, which is essentially antifreeze, and also secrete a simple sugar that turns into the equivalent of a suit of armor. It's enough to survive in space, at least for a little while. In 2007, a European Space Agency satellite exposed tardigrades to cosmic radiation in open space for 10 days. When they were returned to Earth and rehydrated, some of the microscopic water bears woke up. Even if the Beresheet crash was more catastrophic than believed, the animals likely survived. Tardigrades can survive pressures that are comparable to those created when asteroids strike Earth, so a small crash like this is nothing to them. Facts about tardigrades. Size. They can range from 0.05 mm to 1.2 mm long, but they usually don't get any bigger than 1 mm long. Habitat. Water bears can live just about anywhere. They prefer to live in sediment at the bottom of a lake, on moist pieces of moss or other wet environments. They can survive a wide range of temperatures and situations. Research has found that tardigrades can withstand environments as cold as -328 degrees Fahrenheit (-200 Celsius) or highs of more than 300 degrees Fahrenheit (148.9 Celsius), according to Smithsonian Magazine. They can also survive radiation, boiling liquids, massive amounts of pressure of up to 6 times the pressure of the deepest part of the ocean, and even the vacuum of space without any protection. A 2008 study published in the journal Current Biology found that some species of tardigrade could survive 10 days at low Earth orbit while being exposed to a space vacuum and radiation. In fact, water bears could survive after humanity is long gone, researchers found. Scientists from Harvard and Oxford universities looked at the probabilities of certain astronomical events. Earth-pummeling asteroids, nearby supernova blasts and gamma-ray bursts, to name a few, over the next billions of years. Then, they looked at how likely it would be for those events to wipe out Earth's hardiest species. And while such catastrophic events would likely wipe out humans, the researchers found little tardigrades would survive most of them. They reported in a study published online July 14, 2017, in the journal Scientific Reports. To our surprise, we found that although nearby supernovas or large asteroid impacts would be catastrophic for people, tardigrades could be unaffected. David Sloan, a co-author of the new study and researcher at Oxford, said in a statement. Therefore, it seems that life, once it gets going, is hard to wipe out entirely. Huge numbers of species, or even entire genera may become extinct, but life as a whole will go on. Habits. Tardigrades were discovered by a German pastor, Johann August Ephraim Goes, in 1773. He named them Tardigrada, which means slow stepper. In 1776, Italian clergyman and biologist Lazzaro Spallanzani discovered that water bears survive extreme conditions by making a transformation. In many conditions, they survive by going into an almost death-like state called cryptobiosis. They curl into a dehydrated ball, called a tun, by retracting their head and legs. If reintroduced to water, the tardigrade can come back to life in just a few hours. While in cryptobiosis, tardigrades' metabolic activity gets as low as 0.01% of normal levels, and their organs are protected by a sugary gel called trehalose. They also seem to make a large amount of antioxidants, which may be another way to protect vital organs. Water bears also produce a protein that protects their DNA from radiation damage, according to research by the University of Tokyo. In cold temperatures, they form into a special tun that prevents the growth of ice crystals. They also have another defense for when they are in water. When the water they live in is low on oxygen, they will stretch out and allow their metabolic rate to reduce. In this state, their muscles absorb oxygen and water well enough that they can survive. In 2016, scientists revived 2 tuns and an egg that had been in cryptobiosis for more than 30 years. The experiment was reported in the journal Cryobiology. Reports from an experiment in 1948 claim that a tun over 120 years old had been revived. But this research has never been duplicated, according to the BBC. Diet. Tardigrades eat fluid to survive. They suck the juices from algae, lichens and moss. Some species are carnivores and even cannibals. They can prey on other tardigrades, according to the BBC. Offspring. Tardigrades reproduce through sexual and asexual reproduction, depending on the species. They lay 1 to 30 eggs at a time. During sexual reproduction, the female will lay the eggs and the males will fertilize them. In asexual reproduction, the female will lay the eggs and then they will develop without fertilization. Conservation status. Tardigrades have not been evaluated by the International Union for Conservation of Nature. They are also not on any other endangered list and have survived 5 mass extinctions over the course of around 500 million years, according to National Geographic. Other facts. The water bear's mouth can telescope outward to reveal sharp teeth that are used to grab onto food. They swim. Their multiple legs propel water bears forward to reach food. Tardigrades must have at least a thin coating of water around their bodies to prevent turning into a tun. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.